Next, we're going to look at the idea of percent. So if you pull out your outline, you'll see that you're supposed to read page 185. Page 185 has a definition of percent, and it says percent is the ratio of a given number to 100. This means that a percent is the numerator of a fraction whose denominator is 100. And if you look at the little drawings down here, you can see where they've given 100 blocks down here. So if I had 8%, that would be 8 out of those 100 blocks. So that's what percent means. It means something that's out of 100. So you're going to look at a couple of different examples. The first one that we're going to look at is example 2. And if you notice on your outline, you are told to work through example 2. So we're going to look through that one first. So let's go back to our book and pull that one up. It says write the following percents as simplified fractions. So every time you have a percent and you want to write it as a fraction, you simply take the number, drop the percent sign, and write it over a fraction. Now, once it's simplified, if you're good at fractions, you can look at that one and you can say, well, 25 goes into 75 and 25 goes into 100, and you would get 3/4. Let's assume, though, that we're not good with fractions, because a lot of people hate math, and one of the reasons is they hate math is because they're bad with fractions. So I hit my fraction key and I put 75 and I put 100 on the bottom and I hit enter, and it reduces it for me. Now that one you could probably do on your own. When you look at the second part of that example, though, part B says salary's up 6.8%. So if I wanted to write that as a fraction, I would have my 6.8 over 100. And I cannot mix decimals and fractions, so I have to make sure this is reduced. So if I put in my fraction my 6.8 on the top, and I put my 100 in the bottom, and I hit enter, it's going to reduce it for me, and it's going to change it to a decimal first. And then what you're going to want to do is this key here that says FD on it on your calculator, you're going to want to hit that key so that it will change it to the simplified fraction, which is 17 over 250. If I'm trying to do this by hand, I want to get rid of this decimal, and the way I get rid of this decimal is it needs to come over one place. So if it comes over one place, that's how many zeros you add to the bottom. So the top would be 68, the bottom would be 1,000. So if you're doing this by hand now, we're going to say, well, 2 will go into 68, and 2 goes into 68 34 times, and 2 goes into 1,500. 2 goes into 34 17, and 2 goes into 500 250. So that's how the calculator is getting that answer. What you need to remember is if you're going to change a percent to a fraction, drop the percent sign and put it over 100 and reduce it. So that's what we're doing for all of those. So that's example 2 that you're working through. That's what you're doing for all of those. Example 3 says write each percent in decimal form. So whenever I have a percent and I want to write it as a decimal, since everything is out of 100, if I have 8% and I want to write it as a decimal, saying 8 over 100 as a fraction is like saying 8 divided by 100. So to change a percent to a decimal, all I need to do is divide it by 100. And since 100 has 2 zeros in it, dividing by 100 is the same thing as moving a decimal point 2 places to the left. So since this decimal started out at the end, I move my decimal 2 places to the left, and I have 0.08. If I do it on the calculator, and I take my 8 divided by 100, and I hit enter, it's going to give me my 0.08. So you divide these by 100, and that gives you the answer that you're looking for. If I look at the next one that they give me, for example 3, it's 6.8%. If I move my decimal 2 places to the left, I would have 0.068. If If I take my calculator and I put 6.8 divided by 100, I'm going to get 0.068. So that's where those answers are coming from. Divide by 100 or move your decimal 2 places to the left to change a percent to a decimal. If we look at example 4 in the book says, write decimal forms as percents and fractions. So this time they're starting out with decimals and they want us to go the other way. They want us to go to percents and fractions. So let's look at those. We've got 2 of those. We've got 0.85. If I want to change this one to a percent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards. So on these others that we had, we moved the decimal to the left or we divided by 100. On these, we're going to multiply by 100 or move my decimal 2 places to the right. So this would be 85 and then add the percent sign. So if you're going from a percent to decimal, divide by 100. If you're going from a decimal to percent, multiply by 100. And that'll get the change for you. So no matter what it is, if it's like this other one, 2.485, and I want to change it to a percent, I'm going to move it 2 places and add the percent sign. So that's what you're doing on those. If it wants you to change it to a fraction, the easiest thing to do is, since you've already changed it to a percent, is just do like we did before and put it over 100 and reduce it. So if I put this one over 100, I can either punch it in my calculator, let my calculator do the work for me, or I can say, can't mix decimals and fractions, so I'm going to move that 1 place and add a 0. So now I have 2485 over 1000. So, and again, this is me doing it by hand. Both of those I can tell by looking at them because they end in 5 and 0, that a 5 will go into both of them. So 2485 divided by 5 is 497. Whoops. 497 over 500. Then I have to see if there's anything else that it will reduce to. Let's see. 2 won't go into 497. But let's see. The way that you tell if 3 will go into something is you add the digits. So 9 and 7 is 16, 16 and 4 is 20. So 3 won't go into it. So 5 won't go into it. 10 won't go into it. So I think we're pretty good with it. Let me check on my calculator and make sure. Yep. 497 over, whoops, 5 goes into 1,200 times. Sorry about that. Instead of 500 times. So there we have that one reduced as a fraction. If we go back up to the one we were doing before, 85%, if I put 85 over 100, let's see, 5 goes into 85, so we can reduce it that way, and 5 goes into 100. So there's our reduced fraction for that one. If you're bad at these, put them in your calculator and let the calculator do the reducing for you so that you won't make mistakes. You're going to be looking at charts, different kinds of charts, and it's going to ask you to do all these things at once. So it's going to give you a chart and it's going to have like fraction, decimal, and then it's going to have percent out beside it. And it's going to fill in part of the chart. So it may give you the decimal and ask you to give the percent and the fraction. So what I like to do first, if I'm given a decimal, is I go ahead and I change it to the percent. So I get 0.25% by multiplying by 100. And then I put the 0.25 over 100 and I reduce it. So if I take my calculator and do the 0.25 over 100, change it to a fraction, I get 1 over 400. So it's going to ask you to do all of those things at once. It may even ask you to change a fraction to a percent. So it may give you 5/8, and it may want a decimal and a fraction and a percent. So this is like division. So this is saying 5 divided by 8. So the easiest thing to do is take your calculator and punch in 5 divided by 8, and it is going to give you the decimal. And then you want the percent, so you're going to move it 2 places to the right. So any of those that it gives you, that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be asking you to change those things back and forth. So you're now ready for some practice, and you're going to want to practice 17 through 55 odd on page 189. Again, if you are scared of fractions, let your calculator do some work for you. This is why I've given you the tool that you have with your calculator.